Hey guys, ECRG here, back with another episode, and I have got another viewer submitted question. So we're going to get into this one, but before I do, I want to tell you guys about the resume review program. I have been cranking out a lot of resume reviews lately over the past couple weeks, and I've been seeing a lot of the same mistakes that people are making, but the good thing is that I'm here to help you. So if you're interested, email me eliteclinicalgroup@gmail.com. We are bringing out the best in people's resumes, stuff that they didn't even know they had in them, taking their applications to the next level. So if you're interested, email me there and we'll get you started in the resume review program. So the title of this video is, should I work at a clinical research vendor to get clinical research experience? So this person emailed me this question, and I'm going to go ahead and read their email to you. This person says, I have always enjoyed watching and learning from your channel, particularly from the videos diving into and emphasizing the types of roles, jobs in the clinical research industry. Well, thank you for that. They go on to say, I am fresh out of college and I am looking to get into the clinical field. I've been on the hunt and researching, but there are not many traditional clinical trial project assistant coordinator positions available in my area. However, there are quite a few companies like Clinical Inc. with many open entry-level positions that focus on e-source, e-COA solutions for clinical sites, research, etc. Do you think starting at these types of clinical tech solutions company and working there for a while, then trying to go for a position at a CRO, a pharma, or a biotech company sounds feasible or beneficial down the line? Thanks in advance. And then they have a follow-up part kind of in the second part. So I'm going to go ahead and handle this part first. So the nature of this question is, do I think that vendors, working at a vendor to get clinical research experience when you cannot work for a CRO or pharma initially is a good idea? The answer is yes, yes, and more yes. Here's why. The companies that you would be applying for later on down the line would know these vendor companies. He says he's looking at an e-source company that does e-source. Well, a lot of these companies are looking to go into the e-source direction anyway. They want sites to use e-source because, just it's a lot easier. There's not fumbling with all those source documents at site and things like that. It's a good idea, and I think the industry will be heading there in a long time. But the vendors, everyone in the industry knows these vendors. So you're working for a reputable company. You're getting kind of clinical research adjacent experience, we'll call it. But you're getting familiar with these documents, CRO's needs, pharma's needs. And I think it'd be a really nice sell in your interview when you're looking down the line to work for a pharmaceutical or a CRO company. And if you need help with that sell, we can definitely help you how to word that and where to put that on your resume to make it sound a little bit better and stand out to recruiters. But I think that's definitely a great opportunity. And this is one I haven't talked about on the channels before, is working for clinical research adjacent companies to then go ahead and get your way into the clinical research industry. These vendor companies, they have project managers too. They have these similar roles in clinical research that you'd be going for that you can get project management experience in and eventually use that to manage clinical research trials. So, in the vendor level, you'd be managing a part of it, but you'd be able to use that experience to then parlay that into a CRO or a pharmaceutical company project management position. And they hire from vendors all the time. You name it, Allmac, Metadata. They hire from these vendors all the time because they use these products. So it just makes sense. And I think that's a good thing to talk about and talk to the rest of the audience about, because this is something I haven't talked about at all before, is getting into these clinical research adjacent positions if you can't get directly into the clinical research industry. Now, definitely, if you work for a vendor versus working for a CRO, it's definitely better working for the CRO, or working, if the option is between a pharma company or a vendor, it's better to go with the pharma company if you want to be in actual clinical research industry. But if you're having a hard time, work for the vendor. And don't forget, you can always leave later down the line. You can always, if even a few months later down the road, they offer you a position at a pharma company, then you can always leave and take that. So you kind of take what you can right now, and you can turn that experience into clinical research experience. It's clinical research adjacent enough. You just got to kind of spice it up on your resume. And we can help you if you don't know how to do that, for anyone who's listening. So definitely a good option. Now you go on later to say, well, I basically ask, it depends on what your goals are. And that's a good point too. I mean, not everyone wants to go work for a CRO or a pharma company. You may end up loving working at the vendor. You may eventually leave there and want to start your own business and come up with your own vendor solution to the pharma industry. That's great. That's perfect. And you can do that. Goals and what people want change all the time. So, if you it depends on what your goal is too. If you just want to be a project manager, you can be a project manager for a vendor too. You don't have to just be a project manager for pharma or a CRO. So it really depends on your goals. You got to look at what you want and what kind of goals you have too when it comes to these type of things. So then they go on later to say, I'm looking to go into clinical project management down the line. I have much work experience, but it's not clinical related. There are a few clinical trial project assistant positions, but I've noticed many of these types of job postings require a minimum of 1 year experience in clinical or pharma. Since I don't have many options and I'm new to this industry, having recently graduated with a BS in biology, I figured applying to open positions at clinical tech and solutions company would be the best starting point. Well, he's right. And a lot of times they do say entry level, but we want 2 years experience when you go and read in the description. Or they'll say entry level, but we want 1 year of experience. Well, the punchline here, guys, is apply for those jobs anyway. My first job was one where they said that too, but clearly they don't. They're just saying that. They don't. That's ideal, but they oftentimes don't get an ideal candidate. So you can't let that deter you. You've got to apply for positions. Apply for a lot of positions. You got to apply for almost 200 to break into this industry. Shoot for 200. So you've got to apply for these positions because oftentimes they will hire you, even if you don't have the quote unquote year experience or 2 years experience. So apply for all of these. I mean, I applied for senior CRA positions when I had no experience. Why? Because building that relationship with that recruiter was more important. They eventually would give you a position later on down the line. You never know. So you got to apply for all of these positions, no matter what the experience level is. Don't go applying for a project director role, but you definitely can apply for a CRA role, any of the entry-level positions, any of the ones that require 1 or 2 years experience. Apply for those roles because even though you don't have experience, you have other experience that you can use in your application to help buffer your resume. So that's it for this video, guys, for this episode, guys. Don't forget, you can work for clinical research adjacent companies to eventually get a little experience and then move your way into the clinical research field. Great point brought up by this question. Hope you guys benefit from it. This is ECRG signing off.